everyone. Welcome to week 3. So this week we're focused on evaluating sources. So you have prepared an annotated bibliography draft, and this week you're going to revise your annotations so that you are even more thoroughly kind of critiquing and evaluating your sources. And you're also going to do a writing exercise where you're going to choose one of your sources and kind of do a really thorough critical evaluation of it. So evaluation has to do with determining the applicability and usefulness of a source, and it's going to require really close reading. So the learning objectives are that you're going to be practicing determining content and drawing conclusions about sources, and then also using what we lovingly refer to as the CRAP test to evaluate sources. So you're going to read eCampus week 3. There's a chapter in Joining Academic Conversations that will be very important to read called Deepening Understanding, Vetting the Conversation. You're going to watch this video on learning to evaluate sources, which it's going to take you to an outside library guide here. And so you're going to kind of read this page here, and then you're going to, let's see, here's a PDF. Here's something from Purdue OWL, and here's another LibGuide that you can use. So you're going to kind of look through here and especially look at this CRAP test thing and view this video. Okay. Once you do that, you should be pretty well prepared to dive into the work. So, and a couple other things. There are a couple links here on eCampus that are going to help you. So for example, you can read through this module on, critical reading and writing. You can also, let me get back to here. You can also look through this about evaluating research sources. So this is really helpful as well. Tips for web resources, how to evaluate information, that sort of thing. So then you're going to go to the source evaluation exercise. And the assignment sheet describes the purpose, audience, conventions, and trouble that you might run into. So the purpose of this exercise is to develop strategies for identifying and articulating criteria for evaluation and applying those to a source. So you're going to choose a source from your annotated bibliography, and then you're going to write an essay. And in the essay, you're first going to provide an introduction that just gives us basic information. What source are you evaluating? How does it relate to your research project? And what criteria did you use to evaluate it? And then you also need a thesis statement that makes an argument about the source's credibility and usefulness for your project. Then you're going to write a couple paragraphs, maybe about 2 paragraphs, but that's not a hard and fast rule, where you evaluate the source using 2 or more criteria: authority, currency, bias, accuracy, and primary versus secondary. And there are detailed instructions in Chapter 3 of Joining Academic Conversations about how to apply the criteria. And then you're going to write a conclusion where you rephrase your thesis and answer the so what question. And you should use one of the strategies for writing a conclusion in Chapter 3 in Joining Academic Conversations. Your audience is your instructor, but also other researchers who want to know if the source is useful for the research question. So you should use academic language, but keep in mind that your reader may be outside of your field, so you should define key terms and avoid jargon. In terms of conventions, I'd like you to write this as an academic essay, 1 to 2 pages double-spaced, use paragraphs, include a works cited or reference page, and use correct APA or MLA formatting conventions. In terms of grading, it's going to be graded like a writing exercise. So A-level writing exercises are well developed, so each paragraph has a main point and adequate evidence and support. It's original, meaning that you have provided kind of new insights and your work is thoughtful and it succeeds in mastering techniques. The technique here is source evaluation, and it might even show some risks that work in terms of the ideas or the organization or tone or something like that. B-level is developed and detailed, and it shows care and attention, but it might not be quite as well developed or quite as kind of nuanced in terms of how it masters the technique of source evaluation. C writing is acceptable, but maybe it's underdeveloped or the content isn't particularly strong or it's maybe a little bit inaccurate. D is unacceptable. It might be unfinished, inappropriate, really inaccurate source evaluation, or even C-brushed. And an F is for any assignment that isn't turned in or if the writing was late. So that's your deliverable this week. You also should start looking into major project 2, which is the research proposal. So your next major project is one in which your goal is to really submit a research project proposal. Actually, I'm going to go over here to projects. So let's see. Okay, so here we go. This is the research proposal assignment sheet. So in it, you need to think about the purpose, which is that a proposal is really an action plan for carrying out your research. So you need to be making an argument that your research is worth doing. Your goal is to explain the question or problem that you're entering into and how your project will address it through primary research. So you need to include a working title for your project. You need to discuss the exigency, synthesize the literature. What have other scholars said about this topic, and what need does your research address? You need to define and discuss any perspectives and points of tensions and key terms. And you need to briefly describe what you're going to research, your research questions, and the methods that you'll use to collect original data. You'll also include a reflective cover letter, and it's going to allow you to reflect on your experience with the unit. Your audience is academics, so you need to think about how other academics will perceive your project. Will other academics who are reading this, especially your instructor, see your project as worthwhile? Have you defined key terms and avoided jargon so that somebody who is an academic but is not an expert in your topic can understand it? Most importantly, do you clearly describe a research question and methods that are achievable and worthwhile? You should submit a proposal that's 1 to 2 pages, double-spaced, using Times New Roman 12-point font and 1-inch margins, and you need to include a works cited or reference list using APA or MLA. And your cover letter should be addressed as a letter, and it should be 1 to 2 pages long. Submit all of this in one document. So that's your deliverable in the coming weeks. So if you go back to week 3 here, you'll see that this week, week 3, you just have the source evaluation exercise due, and then you need to start thinking about and maybe drafting your research proposal. So there's some optional content here as well, and I'm available if you have any questions. Thanks.